I thought I had a stable life, wife of 15 years, 2 kids, a solid career. Then I found out she was sleeping with my brother. Thought that was the bottom? My own mother and sister blamed me. Said real men don't get cheated on. My name's Mark Bennett. I'm 42 years old, a structural engineer by trade, and a man most folks would call dependable, even if they didn't mean it as a compliment. I don't wear flashy suits or drive a car that purrs like a spoiled cat. But if you need a foundation poured straight or a friend who shows up on moving day, I'm your guy. I build things that don't fall down. At least, that was the idea. I've been married to Elaine for 15 years. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming, one of those awkward potluck affairs where nobody knows if they should bring wine or dessert, so everyone brings both. She had this calm presence, like the eye of a storm. The kind of woman who didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. That intrigued me. Still does, in a way. Ours wasn't a storybook romance. No fireworks or Instagram captions with poetic quotes. Just two adults who shared values, made each other laugh, and built a life brick by brick. Mortgage, 2 kids, a golden retriever named Scout, classic American stability. She worked in public relations. Smart, articulate, always knew what to say in a room full of strangers. I liked that about her. I still remember how she'd rest her head on my chest when we watched movies, like it was the safest place in the world. But somewhere along the way, things changed. At first, it was small. She started leaving her phone face down, charging it in odd spots, places it had never been before. Her laugh got quieter around me, like the joy was still there, but it wasn't mine anymore. She'd brush off questions with quick answers and longer silences. Just tired. Long day. It's nothing. But it felt like something. You don't live with someone for a decade and a half without learning the rhythms. And hers were off. She stopped making our Saturday morning pancakes, something she always insisted on, even when the kids weren't around. She took more walks to clear her head. Stopped asking about my day. There's a moment in every slow disaster where you realize things aren't breaking. They've already broken. You just didn't hear it. Then there was my brother, Jake. Jake and I couldn't have been more different growing up. I was the straight line. He was the wandering curve. Always charming, always in some sort of jam. He was the kind of guy who'd borrow your truck and return it with more stories than gas. But he was blood. And blood, we're taught, is thicker than doubt. It started innocently enough. He'd stop by more often, just to catch up. Then it was to help with the deck, even though I hadn't asked. Elaine would light up a little when he arrived, not in any obvious way, just enough to register if you knew her like I did. He'd bring beers, joke with the kids, and crack wise about how Elaine's always had good taste. I laughed along, because that's what you do, right? When your brother's your brother and your wife's your wife and your life is supposed to be safe. One night I came home from work later than usual. The porch light was off. Strange. Inside, the house was quiet, no cartoons blaring, no clatter from the kitchen. I found them in the living room. Jake was showing her something on his phone. She was leaning in close. Too close. They didn't jump or pull apart like in the movies. No guilt written on their faces. Just two people looking up, like I'd interrupted a song at the chorus. Jake smiled. Hey, man, was just showing Elaine that video of the idiot on the ladder. You've got to see this. Elaine said nothing. Just stood up and walked to the kitchen, muttering something about dinner. I nodded, smiled, played the game. Because I didn't know. Not really. But my gut did. It was a Wednesday, middle of the week, middle of October. The kind of gray, drizzly day that makes the whole world feel like it's stuck between breaths. A site inspection wrapped up early, and instead of killing time at the office, I figured I'd come home. Maybe surprise Elaine with takeout from that Thai place she used to love. Just a small gesture, something normal. Something us. I pulled into the driveway around 3:30. No cars but mine. Jake had taken to parking around the corner lately. Easier to leave space for deliveries, he'd said once, with that lopsided grin. Didn't think much of it at the time. I do now. Inside, the house was quiet. But not empty. I know our walls. I know their sounds. And I know the way my wife laughs. It's changed over the years, used to be open and unfiltered. Then it softened with age and responsibility. But that day? That laugh was young. Reckless. The kind of laugh you try to hold back, but can't. It was coming from upstairs. I stood there, still holding the takeout bag, staring up at the ceiling like it might confess something. Footsteps followed, light, hurried, and then silence. Heavy silence. The kind that clings. I didn't run up the stairs. I didn't shout. I just walked, slow and measured, like I was checking on a creak in the floorboards. Top of the stairs, hallway empty. Bedroom door cracked just enough. I pushed it open. Elaine was there, sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone. Calm. Composed. Too composed. Her hair was slightly tousled. The window was open, letting in cold air that didn't match the sweat at her collarbone. "Hey," I said, trying to sound like a man who hadn't just heard the fault line shift beneath his feet. "You expecting someone?" She looked up and blinked. "No? What?" "Just heard voices." "Laughter." She smiled, the kind of smile people use on customers they don't like. "Must have been the TV. I had a podcast on earlier." The closet was shut. The bathroom door closed. I didn't check either. I didn't want to know. Not yet. I just nodded and walked toward the laundry hamper by the dresser. I'd been meaning to toss in my work shirt anyway. That's when I saw it. Tucked between two towels, a men's t-shirt. Dark blue. Faded logo. Not mine. I held it up. "Whose is this?" She glanced at it, then rolled her eyes. "Jake's probably. He was helping clean out the garage the other day, remember?" That was news to me. "Why's it in our hamper?" "He probably tossed it in by accident." "What's the big deal?" The big deal was that it smelled like her perfume. I didn't say that. I didn't say anything. I just nodded again and walked back downstairs. That night, over dinner, she acted like nothing happened. Laughed at a commercial, asked if the kids needed new winter boots. She was all domestic serenity, all polished veneer. But beneath it, something cold was coiled. The next day, I went to see my mother. She was sitting at her kitchen table, the same table I'd eaten countless Sunday breakfasts at growing up. Coffee in one hand, crossword in the other. "I think Elaine might be seeing someone," I said. No lead up. Just the truth, cracked and raw. Mom didn't even look up. "You work too much, Mark. She's probably just lonely." I blinked. "What? You're always at that job. Out early, back late." "She's a woman, not a nun. She's my wife." She sighed like I was being difficult. "Don't go looking for trouble where there might not be any. You're too smart to throw away a marriage over a feeling." Later that week, I mentioned it to my sister, Rachel. She and Elaine had always gotten along, maybe too well. Her response? "You've always been the serious one, Mark. Maybe lighten up a little. She probably just needs attention." There's a special kind of betrayal that comes when your gut is screaming and the people closest to you hand you a pillow and tell you to lie down. "It's nothing," they say. "You're imagining it." I wanted to believe them. God help me, I did. But it's hard to see clearly when the fog's blown in from your own bloodline. Some men snap when they find out. Scream. Throw things. Make scenes worthy of headlines and sirens. Not me. I work in precision. I measure before I cut. I double-check the tension in every cable before I sign off on a structure meant to carry lives over water. I don't swing wild. I gather data. The day I found the truth didn't begin any differently than the rest. Elaine had left early for some client brunch she'd mentioned offhand. Jake had texted me that morning, asking if I wanted to grab a beer later. The gall. But something was chewing at me. Not just suspicion, evidence. I needed it. Not because I didn't already know, but because when the time came, I wanted silence to do the talking for me. She used the same laptop for work and personal. Always had. The one I bought her 4 Christmases ago. Gold finish, fingerprint reader, the whole thing. She never changed the passcode. It was still our anniversary. Stupid, right? The same date she used to cheat on. She used to keep secrets safe. I opened the browser. Clicked the cloud sync. Waited. She must have figured the real danger lived in her phone. But the cloud? That's where people forget what they leave behind. And there it was. A folder innocently labeled Ref Deck. Probably for reference deck, like some PR presentation. Inside, screenshots. Images. Voice memos. Notes. Chats synced from her phone. The first one was a selfie. Her. In our guest bathroom. Wearing nothing but a towel and Jake's smug reflection in the mirror behind her, brushing his teeth. My stomach didn't drop. My jaw didn't slack. Nothing broke. The damage had already been done. The messages were worse. The betrayal wasn't just skin deep, it was layered. Private jokes that twisted memories I had lived through with her. "Remember how he used to try and grill? God, he thinks charcoal is a flavor," she wrote. "He was always too soft," Jake replied. And later, "He never made me feel alive." "You're with me now," Jake said. "You don't have to pretend anymore." And the piece de resistance? A vacation folder. Hotel confirmations, rental car receipts. She told me it was a wellness retreat for work. In Arizona. It was Maui. 2 tickets. King Suite. Her bikini selfie matched the blue-tiled pool I saw in the travel email. It had been going on for over a year. While I fixed the sink, paid the mortgage, planned her surprise birthday party she called a sweet gesture but a bit overdone. She'd been gone long before she walked out the door. I closed the laptop, stood up. The clock ticked in the kitchen. Scout thumped his tail once against the floor when he saw me. The fridge hummed like a distant threat. And I just stood there, jaw tight, eyes dry. They wanted war. They forgot what I do when I'm quiet. I didn't storm into the house that night. I didn't throw her phone across the room or demand names like some furious sitcom husband. I waited until the kids were asleep, until the dishes were done, until the mask she wore during the day started to slip and I could see the tired weight behind her eyes. Then I asked her to sit. She leaned on the kitchen island like we were about to talk through vacation plans or refinance options. Calm, lazy confidence on her face, like she already knew how the scene ended. I pulled out a chair. She didn't take it. I know about you and Jake, I said. No rage. Just truth, laid flat like blueprints on the table. She blinked. Once. No gasp. No denial. Just a shift of weight and that slow, smug smile. Well, she said, took you long enough. I stared at her. That's all you've got? She shrugged, took a sip of water like we were discussing overdue bills. I figured you'd get around to it eventually. You've always been methodical. 15 years, I said. And you couldn't just leave like a decent person? She leaned forward, eyes sharp. 15 years of what, Mark? Routine? Predictability? You call it loyalty. I call it inertia. My jaw clenched. She continued, undeterred. You never saw me. You saw a version of me that fit your tidy little world. God, you even thought that deck you and Jake built last summer was some kind of bonding experience. He and I were already sleeping together then. I don't remember reaching for the counter, but suddenly it was under my hand, grounding me. Then she said the line that snapped something cold and permanent inside me. Even your own mother agrees. She said you've been emotionally dead for years. I blinked. You talked to my mother about this? She's the one who told me not to feel guilty. Said, maybe this'll wake Mark up. I left the room without a word. Drove to my mother's house. She answered the door in her robe, hair pinned up, surprised to see me but not alarmed. That should have been my first clue. I told her what Elaine said. I asked her point blank if it was true. She didn't hesitate. She's not wrong, she said. You've always been too rigid. People need excitement, Mark. Maybe now you'll learn something. You're defending her cheating on me? With Jake. My sister Rachel was there too. She just arrived to drop off something, still wearing her gym clothes. She joined the conversation like she'd been listening from the hallway. Real men don't get cheated on, she said, arms crossed. And especially not by their own brother. I laughed. Bitter. Short. You think this is about testosterone? About being man enough to keep a wife? Rachel just raised her eyebrows. It's not about muscles, Mark. It's about energy. You walk around like life's a spreadsheet. And then my mother, you didn't notice your marriage falling apart. That's on you. I looked at the 2 women who helped raise me, who sat at my wedding, who held my children when they were born. And I didn't say another word. Because sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's morning. I drove home. Elaine was already in bed. She didn't ask what they said. She didn't need to. She knew. And I lay there, eyes open in the dark, understanding something for the first time in my life. It was never just about losing a wife. It was losing my last illusion of loyalty. After that night, I stopped raising my voice. Stopped asking questions. Stopped trying to salvage anything. You can't fix a house that was built on rotting wood. You burn it down and build something better. But I didn't burn. Not yet. I vanished, emotionally. Pulled back like a tide right before the storm surge. Around Elaine, I became a ghost in my own home, present but unreachable. I responded to texts with one-word answers. Ate dinner at different times. Slept in the guest room with a lock on the door. She didn't protest. Didn't ask why. She thought I was sulking. That was her first mistake. I wasn't sulking. I was preparing. By day, I was the same dependable Mark, steady at work, polite in public. But by night, I was an architect of quiet retribution. My field is structure, load, tension, failure points. And I started treating my life like one of my bills. First, I opened a new bank account. Different bank, different name, different city. Moved portions of our savings into it slowly, using the excuse of market volatility. She never noticed. Next came the house. I'd bought it before we got married, and though I'd added her name later, as a gesture, I still had the original deed. With the right lawyer and a quiet filing, her name was gone within weeks. She didn't even know. I kept records, printed screenshots, made copies of the messages, the photos, the dates and times. I backed it all up to cloud storage under innocent-sounding folder names. Q4_projections. Budget 2021 final. Let her scroll right past it. I set up discrete cameras, one in the living room, one near the garage, a tiny microphone tucked behind the bookshelf in my office. Just enough to catch conversations when they thought I was out getting groceries or walking the dog. I wasn't after revenge porn. I was building a dossier. Facts. Patterns. Voices saying too much when they thought no one was listening. I contacted a financial forensics guy, old buddy from a construction audit firm. Paid him cash. Asked him to look into joint accounts, credit cards, any anomalies. Within a week, he found charges I hadn't noticed. Hotels, dinners, little gifts. Most tied to business expenses, of course. All paid from accounts she thought I never watched. She slept peacefully through all this. Thought she'd won. Thought I was broken. That was her second mistake. I started keeping a notebook. A plain black spiral bound I labeled inventory on the cover. Not journal. Not plan. Just inventory. Inside were lists. Every lie, every purchase, every date she claimed to be somewhere she wasn't. One page for Jake, one for her, one for my so-called family. I wrote them all in ink, no pencil, no edits. I even changed the locks. Quietly. Rekeyed the whole house. Give her a copy, sure, but not Jake. If he showed up again, the door wouldn't open. Elaine still made small talk. Still played the role. She asked if I wanted to go to her company's Christmas party this year. I told her I had a headache. She nodded. Probably assumed I was grieving. Let her think it. Let them all think I was curled up somewhere, licking my wounds. They never understood who I am. I'm not licking wounds. I'm sharpening blades. It was time to see the other half of the betrayal face to face. I didn't make a scene. Didn't show up swinging. Just texted Jake one morning and asked if he wanted to meet for coffee. He replied with a thumbs up and a "let's do it, bro," like we were still teenagers trying to skip out on mowing lawns. We met at a place halfway between his condo and a construction site I pretended to be inspecting. Neutral ground. Public enough to keep things civil, but private enough for truth. He showed up wearing aviators and that stupid vintage hoodie he always thought made him look cool. Like time hadn't marched right over him and his half-finished ambitions. He spotted me at the corner table and walked over like nothing was out of place, like he wasn't sleeping with my wife. "Hey, man," he said, sliding into the booth. "Long time." I just nodded. He didn't order anything. Didn't ask how I was. Just leaned back, arms stretched along the booth like he was king of something. "I figured this was coming," he said, trying for casual. "Look, Mark, I didn't plan for any of this to happen." She came to me, man. I raised one eyebrow, just a notch. Said nothing. He shifted forward, suddenly needing to justify himself. "You were checked out. You'd gone all ghost mode." She was lonely. We talked. Then, it just happened. It just happened, I repeated, my tone flat, like I was trying out the words for the first time. "Yeah, I mean, it's not like I set out to hurt you. It was never personal." I let that hang in the air between us like a cracked beam ready to fall. He rubbed the back of his neck, like guilt was starting to itch. "I know I should have said something. Come clean. But I figured, what would be the point, right? It would just blow everything up. You'd hate me. And her." Still I said nothing. Jake frowned. "Come on, man. Say something. Yell. Punch me. Get it out." I finally leaned forward, elbows on the table. Looked him right in those pale blue eyes we both got from our father. The same eyes that used to watch my back. That now looked for excuses. "You think silence means surrender," I said. "That's your second mistake." He tilted his head. I stood, adjusted my coat, and laid it on him like a blueprint stamped in red. "You'll never see me coming. That's your first mistake." Then I walked out. Left the bill on the table. Left him sitting there blinking like a man who just realized the floor beneath him wasn't floor anymore. He laughed, a weak sound behind me, like he still thought this was a misunderstanding between brothers. Like the joke would land eventually. I let him laugh. Laughter's always quiet before the snap. You don't trap a snake by chasing it. You wait for it to bite the bait. So I laid mine carefully. Quietly. Every move calculated like a structural load test. Just enough stress to reveal the cracks, not enough to trigger collapse. First, I created a distraction. Noise. I started leaking information. Innocent things at first, little whispers about a deal I was allegedly negotiating, an offshore account being considered, vague talk of early retirement. I mentioned it within earshot, left fake bank statements open on my laptop, just long enough for Elaine to see when she walked past. She bit faster than I expected. Within a week, she asked casually over dinner, "So, this new deal, what's it about?" Like it had just popped into her head. "Oh, just some early-stage talks," I said. "Probably nothing." She smiled. The kind of smile a fox wears when the coupe door creaks open. From there, I nudged things forward. Claimed I was shifting assets to a new investment vehicle, something Jake would be helping me manage. That was the hook. The next day, I left a folder marked Private Equity, Caribbean Holdings sitting on my desk. The figures were fake. The company names were plausible, but fictional. The shell accounts looked real enough, modeled after the real thing. By the weekend, I overheard Elaine on the phone with Jake in the garage, whispering, "If we reallocate just 10%, he won't notice. It's all in his name anyway." That was music to my ears. I had already installed cameras. One in my office, one in the living room. Both legal, state law only required one-party consent. I was that party. I recorded the conversation in full HD. Elaine even signed a bank form I'd left half-filled on purpose. She thought she was authorizing a transfer to our shared portfolio. In reality, it was a setup, clearly labeled in the fine print as a disbursement to a private account unauthorized by the listed beneficiary. She forged my initials. I had the pin stroke on camera. Jake, being the genius he is, sent her a Venmo request the next day. Labeled, "For the Cayman thing smirking face," because apparently betrayal makes you forget that screenshots are forever. Meanwhile, I started interviewing attorneys. Not the ones you see on billboards or hear on late-night radio. No, I looked for reputation. A very specific kind. I found her in a corner office downtown, Maryland Tate. Divorced 3 times. Rumored to have made a Fortune 500 CEO cry during mediation. Her eyes were sharp as scalpels and her handshake was pure litigation. She didn't offer coffee. She offered options. "Do you want fair?" she asked. "Or do you want finished?" I smiled. Finished. We spent 3 hours going over everything. Prenup. Trust documents. Asset trail. Custody plans. She asked how much I wanted to take. "All of it," I said. "But especially their illusion that I don't know how this game is played." "Good," she said. "Because we're not playing." She left me with a thick binder labeled Dissolution Strategy and instructions for the next 30 days. Say nothing. Do nothing. Smile when you have to. Let her think she's still dancing in the dark. And that's what I did. I kissed her cheek in the mornings. Asked how her day was. Let Jake think he'd fooled me with his grin and stupid jokes over beers. I made them feel safe. Because that's the thing about predators. They're most confident right before the net tightens. It was a Sunday dinner, just like the old days. That's how I pitched it. Thought we could all get together, like we used to, I told Elaine over breakfast, buttering toast while she scrolled through her phone. Invite Jake, Mom, Rachel. Haven't had a real sit-down in ages. She smiled. Bit too eagerly. Probably thought I was softening. Letting go. That was her last mistake. The table was set for 6. Roasted chicken, scalloped potatoes, green beans the way Mom likes them, overcooked and under-seasoned. Elaine even made her lemon pie, which she only bothered with when she wanted to impress someone. Jake showed up in a button-down shirt like he thought he'd be shaking hands with forgiveness. Mom wore pearls. Rachel brought wine. We laughed. Told stories. Jake made a toast midway through the meal, raising his glass like he hadn't stabbed me in the back and slept with my wife. "The family," he said. "The ones who stick together." I nodded. "Funny you say that." Dessert came out. Pie slices all around. Forks clinked. Coffee brewed. Elaine sat beside me, Jake across the table, my mother and sister on either end like the world was still intact. That's when I stood. I walked to the sideboard and turned off the lights. Just for effect. The projector was already set up, hidden behind a stack of cookbooks. I clicked the remote in my pocket, and the first message lit up the dining room wall in bold, white letters. He never made me feel alive. You're with me now. He's too soft to notice. Elaine froze, pie halfway to her mouth. Jake sat back in his chair like the air had been pulled out of the room. I clicked again. The photos came next, screenshots of messages, bank statements, the forged signature. Then I played the audio. Just 30 seconds. Her voice. "If we reallocate just 10%, he won't notice." Jake's voice. "It's not even stealing. We're just speeding things up." Her voice again. "He deserves it." He's a ghost in his own house. The room was dead still, save for the mechanical hum of the projector. I didn't raise my voice, didn't ask for answers. I just looked at each of them, one by one. Rachel couldn't meet my eyes. My mother looked like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. Jake's face was pale and tight, like he'd just swallowed something poisonous. Elaine? She stared straight ahead, jaw locked, the lemon pie untouched on her plate. I walked to the table and set a stack of manila folders down in front of Elaine and Jake. One labeled Legal Counsel, Property Division. The other Asset Misappropriation, Pending Review. I suggest you both get lawyers, I said. You'll be hearing from mine tomorrow. Nobody spoke. I turned, grabbed my coat from the hook by the door, and walked out. Nobody said a word when I walked out. They were too busy choking on their silence. Revenge isn't rage. It's not screaming in someone's face or keying their car in a grocery store lot. Real revenge is slow, precise, administrative. Elaine lost her job 2 weeks after the dinner. I didn't threaten. I didn't blackmail. I simply forwarded a curated package, screenshots, bank statements, audio clips, to her company's compliance department. Anonymous delivery, postmarked with care. Just enough to raise questions. Just enough for her boss to take one look and say, "We can't have this attached to the brand." Meridian PR cut her loose with a one-sentence email. No farewell cake. No, thank you for your service. Just a box of her things and a security escort to the parking lot. She tried calling me the day it happened. Twice. I didn't pick up. Jake's fall was uglier. His girlfriend dumped him after seeing the same projector reel I'd played for the family, shared anonymously, again, through a mutual friend who accidentally opened it during game night. Word got out. Friends stopped inviting him. A client of his dropped him from a renovation project. Didn't know I was hiring a guy who builds decks and breaks families, the guy said. He showed up at my place once, tried to talk through the door. "Man, I get it, you're angry, okay? But we were just lost." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Somewhere along the line, the shame caught up. He moved out of town a month later. Or so I heard. I wasn't keeping tabs. Shame does its own chasing. As for my mother and sister, their public support of Elaine didn't age well. Not once the truth surfaced. The dinner guests talked. Stories spread. And when people asked what they had to say about it all, the only sound they made was silence. Mom stopped getting invites to her quilting circle. Rachel's Facebook turned into a ghost town. Apparently, it's hard to keep preaching loyalty and family values when you backed a woman who bedded your son's brother. Funny how fast people step back when the lights come on. Me? I moved into a quiet apartment on the north side. 2 bedrooms, modest balcony, thick walls. No memories attached to the corners. No echoes of betrayal hiding in the drywall. I bought a new couch. Slept better in the first week than I had in the last 2 years. People talk about rebuilding after destruction. But I didn't rebuild. I reimagined. The final moves were the cleanest. In court, everything fell like dominoes. Elaine showed up in a blazer that didn't quite hide the shake in her hands. Her lawyer opened with something about shared custody and equal emotional investment. Mine countered with evidence. Dozens of pages detailing neglect, manipulation, and financial misconduct. All authenticated. All damning. The judge didn't even blink. Full custody granted. The house remained mine. The business, untouched. Elaine tried to make a statement outside the courthouse. Some vague mix of, "he's not the man you think," and "this is all so sudden." But the press release I'd quietly circulated the night before had already hit inboxes, including the one at her old firm. No one wanted her version of events. Not anymore. As for Jake, he didn't show. Couldn't look me in the eye. Last I heard, he was couch surfing in a nearby town, telling himself he was starting fresh. Funny how betrayal doesn't feel quite as sexy when it's followed by disgrace and unemployment. I left a final letter for both of them. Typed. Folded. Left on the old kitchen counter before I handed the spare key to my lawyer. Elaine. Jake. You deserved each other. And every single thing that came with it. May you enjoy the hollow victory of a lie. This house, these children, this name, they're no longer yours to tarnish. I won't raise my voice. I won't raise my hand. I won't need to. I already won. There were no fireworks. No slamming doors or tearful breakdowns. Just the kind of silence that follows total collapse. People think revenge is about rage. That it lives in broken plates and shouted accusations. But real revenge? It's a spreadsheet. A filed motion. A notarized form. It's walking out of a room with your head high while they're still trying to figure out where the walls went. I drive the kids to school now. We eat dinner on the deck I built with my own hands. They sleep peacefully. No tension in the walls. No whispers through closed doors. Some nights I sit outside, glass of bourbon in hand, and listen to nothing. It's the most beautiful sound in the world. I didn't just get revenge. I reclaimed myself. Viewers, this is the end of the story. We would be very grateful for your likes, comments, subscriptions, and sharing of our stories. See you next time.